Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So I was sort of going in an order, like a chronological order of the some of the Disney Channel original movies that I wanted to watch. I don't know if Life Size technically counts as one of those, because I remember it being on the Wikipedia page for the official Disney Channel original movies. I mean, I know they've been under different names over the years. I don't remember seeing Life Size, but maybe I scrolled past it. This one I'd actually never seen before, but I remember either seeing commercials or maybe just like bits and pieces of it when I was younger. I remembered the ending and like the location of that, and I think the beginning when the doll comes to life. Actually, no, it was, I do solely just remember the ending of this movie. I remembered it being in like this purple room and not any of the dialogue, but just like Tyra Banks's character turning back into like a doll and stuff, or something like that. I actually mistook it in my head as being the opening of her becoming human in that place, but it's actually the ending, so I had it mixed up for years. But yeah, I remember seeing that when I was younger. And I hadn't seen anything else in the movie, but I remember wanting to watch it because I thought the concept sounded cool of like a doll coming to life. I mean, the storyline and stuff is kind of similar to like other movies. You know, it's a very much like fish out of water kind of story of like a non-human character becoming human and being like excited about everything and stuff, which sometimes watching that can be like, I don't know, like a little cringe almost of watching the character be like dumb about everything in a sense. Like that's how I felt with the early seasons of the show Third Rock from the Sun, which is about like aliens that end up in like human bodies and having to navigate that. I think it just feels like a little more cringe in a sense. Not cringe as like how it's used now of like, oh, that thing sucks, this is cringe or whatever, but more of like you physically like cringe a little of like it's more of from when like they get into shenanigans of stuff and things start going wrong or whatever, and it like messes with things in the plot. But like here it's handled well. The whole fish out of water thing almost reminds me of like watching Splash, especially because Tyra Banks' character Eve has this sort of thing where it seems like she's falling in love with Lindsay Lohan's character's dad, but then I'm actually glad they didn't go for a romance route by the end. Like they kind of flirt a little bit and it seems like they like each other, but they don't actually seem to like get together or get romantic or anything. But besides the fact that she like turns back into a doll and stuff, they just remain friends. So in that, it almost kind of reminded me of Splash a little, or those type of movies where it's like the same concept but it's like supposed to be a romance movie. If anything, this kind of makes me want to watch Splash. If anything, this movie reminded me a lot of the Barbie movie because of like the, not just the whole thing of like a doll becoming human. I mean, here it's that she like physically becomes a human, and then with the Barbie movie, Barbie is a doll that already, you know, is like the size of a human and not like physically a doll, but then by the end she like technically becomes like a real human. But yeah, not just that concept, but also like the things she learns, of course, about being human, but what she represents as well, because the doll character Eve, you know, views herself, you know, in a similar way to Barbie, of like being a role model to like young girls and having all these professions and stuff, but then has to learn a lesson of like, you don't have to be perfect at everything, and like becomes more human in that sense, in a similar way to stereotypical Barbie in the Barbie movie, to the point where like after I was done watching the movie and I was finished with my notes, I was like hopping on Letterboxd, because I guess that's like a thing I do now, because I'll get curious, especially with movies like these where they're a bit more silly, where I'm like, what do the people think about it? And apparently Greta Gerwig had this list of like movies, like must watch movies, either before seeing the Barbie movie or when she was like inspired by, and people were surprised that this movie wasn't on there, and I agree about that, because it has like very similar like themes and stuff, and it was made like 23 years before, because this is from 2000, so it has that. It's so funny. I get it's also a different genre, and they're like a year apart, where like Smart House, which I literally just watched yesterday, is from 1999 and feels like so 90s. And then this one is from 2000, so literally the next year, but feels so like early 2000s chick flick type movie sort of. It has very like girly pop vibes to it, with like the soundtrack, even like the design of the poster too is like very early 2000s of like the white background. Normally the title would be in red though to really make it. I swear if you looked those up of just like 2000s movies with like the white background and the red text and having like the characters on front like that, there would probably be so many movies that came up. Like I could look at this poster and be like, yeah, that's definitely a movie from like the early 2000s. But I'll just go in the order of my notes, I guess. The start of this movie is so funny to me, actually. Like, I'm so used to movies starting with, like, you know, footage of something or whatever, and eventually it, like, gets to the title. This one immediately starts, it almost feels like a jump scare in a sense, with, like, this very bright yellow screen and the word life size, but it's not the same like font and colors, everything as it is on the poster. It's in like, I swear, the most cartoony font that I've ever seen, that made me think like maybe this is actually from the 90s. It's like a very 90s looking logo for the title, and it's like attacking the camera. It like becomes bigger to represent, you know, like the doll growing to become human, but also like it starts expanding into the screen. That was such like a weird way to start. I just was not expecting that. But then the movie kind of actually starts, and I like that it's this doll commercial that like totally feels like one of those like early 2000s or like 90s like Barbie commercials. I mean, I guess it would just of course still have the vibe of like little girls doll commercial or whatever. I'm assuming they still have those. I haven't like watched a kids channel in years, so I don't know what doll commercials are like now. But yeah, it felt very nostalgic watching that, because it reminded me of seeing those like the Barbie commercials and stuff on TV as a kid. But it's like very cute and nostalgic, and the Eve doll is really pretty. It's a really long commercial, actually. I was kind of surprised by that. And also, usually the commercials when they're selling a doll are like a couple of outfits, or it's like a gimmick or whatever. Like usually, like with Barbie dolls, it's like there's so many different outfits and outfit packs to make you buy like more and more dolls and stuff. But then I guess because it's supposed to be in universe, like the launch of the Eve doll, because that's like the name of the doll, but also like the brand, she's shown in like, I swear, like 7 different outfits, and they go over all her like features. She also has the ability to talk, where she has these lines of like, you're my, what is it, not like you're my bestest friend, and there's one that's like sparkle and shine bright, you know. I swear there was one that sounded like it said don't poo in our oceans. I wasn't sure if I heard that correctly, but it said in such a cheerful voice. It was kind of funny, because there's like certain kinds of lines that the doll has of like animals are our friends, don't wear fur. I thought that was a good one. I feel like the line was probably supposed to be don't pollute in our oceans, but I swear it sounded like don't poo in our oceans, and that threw me off. And then we find out that the doll line isn't doing well, and you hear this girl say something about like, I don't want a doll, I want a toy with a microchip. And I mean, I know there's always kind of been tech in dolls. I feel like did that start with the early 2000s? I don't know. Because like now I know there's like toys that can connect with your iPad and stuff, and it like they take it a step further where it can like sync with the technology, or like how there was Barbie dolls that have like cameras in them and stuff. But with this movie being from 2000 and the line about the microchips, it reminded me, and I remember I was like excited about it when I was little, but I never had those toys of like the dog that was able to like sync with your iPod or whatever. I can picture it in my head, but I don't remember what it was called. It was like a robot dog, and it didn't have eyes. It didn't even have like a face or anything. It had like this screen that I think could change color. I have to look up that dog now. That's gonna bother me, because I feel like I'm gonna describe it and someone in the comments is gonna go, oh, Bumble, it's this specific dog. or whatever, or the toy. I think it had something to do with Apple, but I'm not sure. Early 2000s dog toy robot. I can picture it perfectly. It was like Robo-Pets and stuff. Oh, okay, I was right about the Apple thing. It's literally called iDog. I actually kind of like the design of it. It gave me pictures of like other robotic dogs that looked like they would be in like a kids show or something. Yeah, the iDog. It's just this white body with little ears and a tail, and its face is like a screen or something. And it just has these like colored dots on it and stuff that are like supposed to glow or whatever, and it's able to dance and play music. And I think the normal design of it doesn't have the dots. It actually, without the dots, it just looks so boring. I mean, it does in general. It's like very, very simplistic. But there's just something about it with the ears and the little dots on there that just, and I guess the shape of it too. It's not like clunky or anything. It's very round and smooth. It's not like some of the other dog toys where they have, you know, they're trying to look like it's actually made of metal and stuff, but it has all these like parts and what all these like little details and stuff. I actually kind of do like this simpler design. There's something like nice about it. Yeah, and it can sync up with your iPod. But yeah, it's called the iDog. That's exactly what I was picturing when they said the thing about the microchips. I was thinking about those kind of toys from like is it the early 2000s? Let me see. I'm assuming so, because that would have to be the like the iPod coming out. You know, the iPhone was from like what, 2004. Yeah, this dog's from 2005 to 2009. That's it. I nailed it. Apparently there's green ones too that were like McDonald's toys. Okay, getting off track. But yeah, that's that sort of part about why the Eve doll isn't popular, of like kids not wanting dolls and stuff, kind of reminded me of that. And then this movie, I like how it tries to break down, you know, like with young girls in the early like 2000s or whatever, like some of the it's not even like early 2000s, you know, like the stereotypical girl things about like shopping and not being able to play sports or whatever. This movie does try to like break those down with it in like different ways with things. Like Lindsay Lohan plays not actually the main character. She's a side character, Casey. You know, that's the other thing too. I expected this movie to be like Casey, the main character, and then having to try to bond with Eve and stuff. But Lindsay Lohan actually isn't in like most of the movie. Like her character is pretty much just a side character, and the main character is actually Eve. But I really like that choice because Casey is like really grumpy the whole movie and is constantly trying to get rid of Eve, so she's not really fun to watch. And it's not like she's grumpy just towards Eve, she's grumpy towards like everyone. Like there's sort of plot reasons for that, but it doesn't really make her fun to watch. And then Eve, you know, is super fun and bouncy and like peppy and stuff. And she's like the actual main character where we get to see her, you know, without Casey for like a good chunk of the movie, probably like the middle of the movie, honestly, the most, until Casey like becomes relevant again. And I really liked that because Eve's such a fun character to watch that I didn't want her to like not be on screen. Anyway, Casey is on a football team, and I like how you just see the kids are in their helmets and stuff, and then her helmet comes off and it's revealed like Casey's in there. I don't remember if she was like the only girl on the football team or whatever, but they have those lines about like, oh, you show like a girl or whatever. But I do like that the kid that tells her that at the beginning, at the end, when they lose their championship game, but they're talking, it's like one of her teammates, and he says like good throw or whatever, and she says something like, don't you mean like a girl or whatever, and the kid's like, no, that was a good throw for anybody. You know, I mentioned about Smart House, and I was like, dang, I'm watching another Disney movie about the kid being upset of having a dead parent. It's even like the same parent, it's a dead mom. What is with Disney movies and like the characters having a dead mom? I know that's like a sort of a joke with like the animated ones, but I guess that's for the live action ones too. But yeah, this is another Disney Channel movie about a kid grieving the loss about their dead mom, and then doing like suspicious things on the internet to try to get the parent back, in a sense of like with Smart House, Ben applies for a smart house and then tries to get the house to be their mom. And then with Life Size, Casey is trying to find resurrection spells on the internet to bring her mom back to life, and then gaining like a non-human maternal figure. Something else that always kind of bothers me with movies, like there's this line, because one of Casey's things is like ever since her mom died, she's been kind of ignoring her friends and stuff, and you overhear one of the friends say something like, ever since her mom died she's ignored us, like get over it already. Like, what is with movies and like stupid teens or whatever thinking that losing a parent is easy to get over, you know? I mean, I don't remember in this movie if they say like how long it's been or whatever. Like there's a line in the movie Scream as well, and that's always just such a weird thing to me, you know? Let's see, is Casey ends up stealing this book that's like a Book of the Dead thing, and it costs $150, and she ends up leaving behind, I don't remember if she leaves behind the money, but she leaves an IOU note, but it doesn't have the full price of the book. It says she owes like $85 or something. I was surprised she steals the book, because it's not like she ever uses the whole thing. Like if you actually look at it during the resurrection scene and stuff, she's only using like 1 or 2 pages. And then the rest of the movie is about her trying to get the volume 2 of the book that reverses the spell. And plus the book even says like that the resurrection spell only works once anyway, so it's not like she needs the whole book. And the thing is, we know she has paper on her because she's able to leave behind an IOU note. So I'm thinking like, why doesn't she write down the instructions and then just leave the book behind, you know? And she never uses it again, that specific volume of it, after like she tries the spell and stuff. So the way she ends up actually getting Eve is that the dad has a coworker that buys Casey the Eve doll, but Casey, like, you know, doesn't like dolls or whatever. And the coworker is explaining, I think her name's Drew, that Eve is this collector doll in the sense that like she's numbered and has a certificate of autisticity or whatever. And I'm thinking like, I know Casey's a kid and doesn't like dolls or whatever, and I'm thinking like, damn, you better like keep you know, like good track of that doll and everything. Like the Eve doll even has and I like that it turns into like an actual tattoo on her foot once she becomes human. Even has like a special number or whatever on her foot that's supposedly never able to come off, so you know that it's like the real thing and which one it is. Like you better keep that. That's gonna like make you some money later in life, Casey. So in the spell, what ends up happening is Casey has her mom's old brush, and Drew ends up coming into the room and brushing the doll's like hair, and it ends up on the brush and ends up being part of the spell and brings the doll to life, even though the doll isn't like in the area where the spell's being performed. It's like in a different part of the room, but the hair is there, so it like technically counts or whatever. And it's kind of a little sad how like Drew comes into the room, and because she was the one that, you know, since she got Casey the doll, was like saying like, oh, I got you this doll, I used to be, or like I'm a doll collector, or used to be a doll collector or whatever when I was your age, and then getting excited explaining about the Eve doll to Casey. And then she goes in the room when Casey's not there and sees that Casey put the doll on like the table or something, and then she brushes the doll's hair and puts it on a little stand. And I thought that was like sweet but also kind of sad, because that's gotta be hard of like if you're someone that's like a collector of dolls and stuff, and then you see, you know, the doll's already not being taken care of and stuff, and the fact that she set it up for Casey was kind of cute. But also that's probably also sad of like you just got this kid a gift for her birthday, and you know, then the doll's just kind of put wherever. I mean, she could tell that Casey already didn't like it, but Casey lied and said like, oh, I'll put it somewhere special or whatever. So that was a little sad. what kind of sucks is that I feel like normally in these kind of situations where it's like a resurrection thing gone wrong and it ends up being like silly or whatever, of like this doll being brought to life, you assume like something kind of goes wrong, like the main character does something and then it causes the rest of it to go wrong or whatever. But the thing is, the spell like actually works perfectly. Like, it is a real resurrection spell and it only works once. So like if Drew hadn't gotten some of the hair stuck in the brush, the mom would have been brought back to life. Like, I know, you know, for the morals of everything, the mom can't actually be brought back to life. It's supposed to be about like Casey dealing with her grief. But the fact that like Casey was so close that if, you know, someone else hadn't intervened, she would have gotten what she wanted. Or maybe, I don't know, because it was just a hairbrush. Because with the doll, it's not like the doll's on the table or anything, or it's like one of the doll's items. It's like a piece of her hair. So I guess that like technically would count as DNA. So maybe not, but you know, it made me feel sorry for Casey. And then you get to see, and then from there, the doll's brought to life, and she's played by Tyra Banks. I've known her name. I know she's a model. I never knew what she looks like or anything. Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I think I have like a new celebrity crush, honestly. I didn't know she even did like acting or anything. Like, I knew she was in this movie or something. But yeah, wow, no, that's the whole comment, actually. I mean, that does have to do with the movie too, where everyone comments about like how pretty Eve is and how she's supposedly supposed to be like perfect. Well, it's not even like they comment about how she's supposed to be perfect at everything because of like her Barbie doll type jobs or whatever. It's more of like she's so friendly and upbeat, and all the other adults are, you know, like more boring or whatever. That's what I always find interesting with like fish out of like water stories and stuff, where it's like the character that's like made human, their personality is so like peppy and fun, and they have this like innocence about the world, and they have this like Paddington effect of or no, I'll talk about that later. There's like a certain thing I mean with that. But they're like peppy and fun compared to everyone else who's just like, you know, living their lives and whatever. But it also makes me a little sad because like a lot of people I just meet in general aren't super like cheerful and peppy and stuff. And I totally get why. I'm not saying like everyone has to be like that or whatever. But the fact, you know, in the movie it's treated as like this person's so like odd or whatever. I mean, besides the fact that like, you know, Eve does still act like a doll and everything, but she's so like peppy and fun and like happy all the time, and that I think is part of it, of just weirding people out. Just the fact that scene is like, I guess, strange to other people, I think is a little bit sad. I don't know, I feel like I kind of relate to it. I mean, I don't show it here. Like when I'm like recording and stuff, I'm like relaxed. It's like the end of the day, I'm talking about the games and whatever. But most of the time, I guess when it's just really when I'm with other people, I'm very like peppy and upbeat and stuff. And I mean, that's not like me pretending to be or whatever. That's just kind of how I react when I'm with other people. I mean, when I'm alone, I'm like, you know, I'm chilling, I'm like this, it's whatever. But I just naturally kind of get that way around other people. So seeing that with like this doll character and stuff, how she's so fun and it's seen as weird, yeah, it makes me a little sad. And Eve is so cool to have as a protagonist too, where she's just like happy to be alive and able to move, and she comments on like everything being so big and bright, you know, because she's used to like being adult. Like it takes her a while to realize she's not even like at the beginning like, oh my gosh, I turned into a human, or I'm not made of plastic anymore or whatever. She comments about like having hands, being able to move her hands and stuff, because from her perspective, you know, 5 minutes ago she was plastic, but she has like the like Buzz Lightyear type of thing where she believes she's from Sunnyvale and talks, that's where like the doll's supposed to be from or whatever, and about her fashion outfits and having all those like Barbie doll type jobs. If anything, this movie feels like you know, if they made a movie about Barbie that wasn't, you know, the direction of the Barbie doll movie, and you know how that one's so like serious and stuff, it was just like just for fun. I mean, I know there's Barbie movies, the animated ones. I mean, like this concept, you know, they make for like Barbie and stuff. I feel like it would be like this, of like a doll coming to life and commenting on the dolls. This is what I would have expected the Barbie movie to have been like, actually. Something like along these lines of hearing that there was going to be a Barbie movie made, and then it was in a completely different different direction. But yeah, normally it's like a little cringe in a sense, like I mentioned, of watching like the fish out of water stuff. But like Eve, there's just something about her of like being so fascinated and happy about being alive that it's like kind of cute to watch. And it just, this is like a very wholesome movie in that sense of just her going around having fun. Like I love the way Tyra Banks plays this character. I mean, again, I don't really know much about her. I don't really know what like her actual personality is like or anything, but her character is just so fun to watch and stuff, and just seems so like genuinely interested about the world and other people and stuff. It's really sweet. Let's see what else. There's also specific parts they talk about, like Casey almost gets hit by a car, because Eve ends up like involved with Casey's family and like ends up living in their guest house, but it happens because Casey almost gets hit by a car, and I thought Eve was gonna like push her out of the way or something, but then she ends up just standing up in front of a truck and putting her hand out, and the truck actually stops, and neither of them get hurt or anything. And then actually no, Casey ends up fainting, but it's because Eve starts flirting with Casey's dad like immediately, and Casey's so embarrassed she faints. And it isn't like with Smart House where Ben didn't want his dad like to be with women or anything because he missed his mom. I mean, I think it's a little bit like that for like one part where Casey's like, hey, you let Eve stay in the guest house, that was mom's special place or whatever. Like it's like this movie, like it is focused on like Casey and her feelings about her mom, but it's not like a super important part of the plot. Which I actually kind of like. There was like a good balance of that where it's like that's also there, and there's some important discussions in the movie about like grief, kind of like with Smart House, but not to the same level. But most of this movie is just like Eve being Eve. What was I saying? But yeah. Oh no, but Casey is more weirded out about like Eve flirting with the dad and the dad being into it because you know, Eve's a doll and Casey keeps trying to remind her about that and whatever. Let's see, there's this weird visual effect where like Casey wakes up from fainting and looks at her dad and the screen gets really wiggly, like it starts moving around, and it looks really goofy. Eve at the beginning is kind of interesting where she still says some of her like programmed lines, but also like fully believes she's from her backstory and refers to herself in third person. Most of the movie actually, or like a good chunk of it I should say, is like Eve working in an office like where the dad works and having to be a secretary, and she seems so confident in it of like, yeah, I've worked with computers or whatever, and she has no idea what she's doing, but she looks like she's having so much fun with it anyway. Whereas there's a part where she's like typing on a computer and it's just like gibberish, and she ends up deleting all these important files, and she's not doing any of it to be like malicious or unhelpful. She just has no idea what she's doing, but is still having a good time. There's a part where Eve gets taken to the mall and she ends up trying on all these outfits. I have mixed feelings in the outfits. I want to talk about some of the outfits in this movie. Let's see. There's some of the ones I liked from the mall montage. There's one where she wears this like white floral dress. There's this red dress that has this little top hat. But I think my favorite, well, okay, if you Google this movie, actually that outfit does pop up. Where hold on, let me see. I have to pull it up, because if you Google the movie, the outfit pops up like almost immediately actually. Life size. Yeah. It's literally like the fourth image or something, where Eve is wearing this blue tank top and a black skirt, and I love the outfit so much, except for the bottom of it where it just becomes like super poofy, this like poofy skirt. It looks weird and it doesn't match the rest of the outfit. Almost it gives like a sort of mermaid silhouette to it. But everything before that part of the outfit I really like, where it's this like blue tank top and this sort of black kind of slimming skirt that has these like blue and yellow butterflies on it. And then she has these like black gloves and blue arm warmers or something, and then has these like really cute little butterflies in her hair. It's just like a very fun outfit. I just hate the bottom of it. It looks weird and ruins it. But yeah, there's like a trying on clothes at the mall montage that I think is pretty fun. I wonder if they did actually sell dolls from this movie, because they would have had to have made a doll that looks like Tyra Banks anyway. Actually, there's like 2 different like physical dolls of her that are in the movie. I'll have to Google that. I don't like want one or anything, but I thought the doll looked really cute, and I was like, they had to have made a doll of this, It's kind of funny actually, because there's a life size 2 that I found out about, and there's a doll on the front cover of it. I actually really love the poster for Life Size 2. I know I'm getting like off track, I don't care. Where it's Tyra Banks opening a door to a dollhouse, and she's looking over, and on the right is a doll that's dressed exactly like her. I just think that's so fun. Okay, but yeah, there's like a clothing montage. Actually, I swear, like in every scene, Tyra Banks is wearing a different outfit. There's so many outfits in this movie, but it makes sense because like Eve's marketed as being like a fashion doll, and she's like talking about clothes a lot at like the beginning of the movie. But yeah, the music is very fun in this. That's where I had my note about the music, actually. It's very like bubblegum pop, kind of girly, that you would find in like a lot of like the early 2000s like chick flicks sort of movies. It almost reminds me of like in the same way as like the soundtrack for the movie Aquamarine. That's also a good movie. I need to go back and watch. It's always kind of hard to watch, but because it's so much like a teen movie and stuff. But that was one of my favorites when I was little. I've always loved mermaids. Damn, I might have to just do a bunch of reviews on like a bunch of like quote unquote girly movies I grew up when I was younger. Ella Enchanted is another one. Okay. There's a part where Eve is trying to look at a menu at a restaurant, and she's reading it upside down. And it's just like the line delivery where she looks at Casey and makes this sad face and just says like, I can't read this. But it's just kind of funny. I was almost expecting the line to just, and it would have been funnier if she just said, I can't read, not just because she's reading it, looking at it upside down, but she's a doll, she wouldn't know how to read or anything. I don't know if she can read though, because then the dad offers to order for her, and then it's fine from there. And then later on she has to find this book to get a spell, Eve does, and she says that someone like read it for her or something, so I don't think she can read. I like that during the dinner scene, Eve makes all these comments kind of referencing of like how she used to be a doll and stuff, or things about Sunnyvale or whatever, or like her things about her like doll car that would like very obviously be of like, hey, this person used to be a doll. But the dad doesn't take any of the lines like to literally like that kind of thinking or anything. He just says like, oh yeah, my car was weird to use too, or whatever, and that was like kind of funny to me. Let's see, there's a part where Eve has this high ponytail that like curls at the end with this little like headband with a bow. I think it's treated as like pajamas at first or something. I thought that was cute. And then Casey actually does tell her dad that Eve is a doll, and he doesn't believe her until even till the end, actually, when they have to go to the store and Eve's going to turn back, and then he's like, wait a minute, are you? And then he sees the tattoo in her foot that would like, you know, prove that she's a doll and everything. There's a part where Eve befriends one of the dad's co-workers. I think her name is Ellen, and Eve cries over having like a broken nail or something, and she asks Ellen like, "Oh, you're not gonna throw me away, are you?" That would be terrifying, to be like a sentient object like that, of knowing like someone could like give you away or throw you out if you're even like slightly broken, or if they just decide like they don't want you anymore or whatever. I was just thinking about that with that line, because like Eve, I think at this point like finally realizes she's like a human and not a doll, but I think still kind of views herself as a doll a little bit. And I like that Ellen doesn't actually get mad at Eve for like failing her job, especially because before that Ellen doesn't really emote much or anything, and she's seen throughout the day that like Eve keeps messing up on various things throughout the office. But yeah, Ellen doesn't yell at her, and instead just gives her a pep talk of like, hey, people can't be good at everything. It was actually kind of sweet. And then she mentions at the end about like, you know, if I was half as beautiful as you, and then mentions something of like this one guy, she can't get to notice her at the office, and then Eve gives her like a little makeover thing. You know, I actually really like that, because I feel like normally for like makeover scenes, especially because like Ellen before this happens is like a character who doesn't really wear like any makeup. She doesn't look like ugly or frumpy or anything. I actually like that they like purposely, you know how with makeover scenes where, especially if it's like a nerd character or whatever, or someone that's supposed to be like boring or plain, where they'll like make them look really like plain or frumpy on purpose, and then they'll give them a makeover where it's like they'll remove the glasses and they'll make them look like super amazing or whatever, quote unquote. And you know, I always thought that was like really weird and like a way to like put people down, like the makeover being such a big thing, especially if it's like teen movies or something. But I like how they handled it here, where Eve tells Ellen like, oh, you have lovely skin, you just need like a little bit of blush, and the makeup's pretty, but it's very natural looking. It's not too much. If anything, it just kind of brings out her features rather than like making her look like a different person in a sense, or hiding anything about her. Like I was worried it was going to be one of those like super dramatic makeovers and stuff, especially because Eve's introduced as like, you know, very girly character. She's like a fashion doll and talking about clothes and stuff, and tries to drag Casey into being her shopping buddy. So I just assumed it was going to be one of those like over the top makeovers, but it's not. It makes Ellen stand out a little. Like the other characters treat her like, whoa, Ellen, is that you, or whatever. And like her character already looks pretty normal. Like I even went back to the movie to see from like pre-makeover where she doesn't wear any makeup. She's really pretty anyway. She just has like eye bags from working too hard. Like the makeup covers that a bit. You know, she has like a little bit of blush. Like it's not too much or anything. And she still looks like the same person. And she seems happier too. Not just of like, oh, I look so beautiful now. I was like ugly before, but more in the way of like, you know, it's just nice. Like I don't really wear much. I don't actually wear makeup either. And I still remember like one of my friends in middle school giving me a makeover, and it was like my first time with makeup, and I remember being kind of surprised too. Like it's like a weird feeling when you try makeup for the first time and you like sort of look different. But I thought that was kind of nice. Or like something else I kind of almost expected with this movie, of like how Casey is like very tomboyish and stuff, with like, you know, like playing football and like the way she dresses and stuff. And then I was worried that Eve would be a character, like when I started the movie, that Eve would try to make Casey more girly or anything. And instead what ends up happening is they have this little scene together where Eve's brushing out her hair. It's later on in the movie though, and she says to Casey something about like her having pretty eyes or whatever. It says like something about her appearance. I don't remember what. It's just like one comment or whatever. And then Casey does dress like a little more girly. Actually, it's the same outfit she's wearing on the poster. Yeah, because for most of the movie, Casey wears like t-shirts and stuff. But then she's wearing that outfit at the end. But I like how it was like her choice rather to like start dressing like that rather than Eve doing anything. And it's not like Casey suddenly dresses like super duper girly or whatever. Like it's still like a pretty like casual outfit and stuff with like the shirt and the jacket and everything. But yeah, I thought that was kind of nice. The movie in that way kind of went against like my expectations and stuff. There's a dance scene at a party that I thought was pretty fun. And then there's a part where Eve slaps a guy for like quote unquote being too forward. We ask Eve like, and I mean the quote unquote is in like that's literally what she says, where she slaps him and he's like, why did you do that? And she says something like, oh, I thought you were supposed to, you were being too forward or something. And then he apologizes to her and says he was like trying to seem cooler than he actually is, and she was like, you need to be yourself. And I like how it wasn't just like the thing of like, you need to be yourself and everyone will like you or whatever. She then starts saying of like how he's nice and funny or whatever. Like it was actually handled really well. And then it was kind of nice that like it turns out that was the guy I think that Ellen liked, is like hinted at, and then they end up getting together and stuff. Like Eve basically teaches them both like how to be more like confident in themselves in a way. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then there's this song, it's like I guess like the main theme of the movie or whatever, that's called Be a Star, that Eve ends up singing. I think it's in her like doll commercial at the beginning of the movie too. I've only watched this movie one time and I feel like that song's gonna be stuck in my head for like a week. It's really catchy, but it's probably supposed to be the point because it's like a doll song in a sense. But it's kind of funny, Eve ends up singing it at this party, and it's not even like a super huge party. It's like at this almost like a cafe or something, and there's like these musicians that are playing like jazz music and stuff, and it's like really chill. And then Eve sings the song and they play along with her, and it's kind of funny because she's singing this very like peppy, bubblegum pop type of song about shining bright. It's like Eve's theme song. It's kind of funny actually because the lyrics are like Eve singing about herself and like how cool she is, and she's not trying to do that to seem like, oh, I'm better than everyone. It's just that's literally the lyrics of the song. But like for someone that wouldn't know she's a doll, they would probably think like, oh, she's singing about herself in like third person, she must really like herself too much or whatever. But anyway, it's like it's interesting having those kind of lyrics and the way Eve's singing it and stuff, but then the instruments are like a saxophone and it's like a jazz instrumental. It's like a weird combo, but it works. I thought that was actually kind of cool. And Eve just has this like Paddington effect of like helping people and of like being fun. And she's singing and dancing at this party and it's like kind of silly and you'd expect like, oh, maybe they're gonna like make fun of her or whatever, but then as the song's going on, everyone's dancing and like singing along with her, and they're all suddenly having fun. Oh yeah, the characters I should reference, I think they're all like lawyers or something, and they're like very like it's the dad and his coworkers, and they're all very well, not really like the dad's actually pretty chill, but like a lot of his coworkers are like these very like professional business people and very serious or whatever, and then suddenly they're singing along this really cheesy song or whatever just because they see like how fun Eve is. So it's like that Paddington effect. I'm thinking specifically of like Paddington 2. In that movie, Paddington ends up getting arrested and is in jail for like pretty much the whole movie, and it's all these like really scary and like serious prisoners and whatever, and then by the end everyone's like buddy and really overly happy or whatever because Paddington helps them with stuff. Eve has like a similar effect. Let's see what else. There's a part where Eve doesn't know what crying is, because she sees Casey cry earlier in the movie, when she sees Eve and the dad almost kissing or something, but they don't actually kiss, and then Casey and her dad talk about the mom and stuff, and then Eve and Casey also get to talk about Casey's mom. I thought that was kind of nice. Also, they don't say what the mom died from. I was assuming it was cancer because Casey describes it as like she went in for a checkup, they found something, and then shortly later she was gone, is the description. But yeah, Eve tries to talk to Casey about it later and says like, oh, there was water coming from your eyes. And then Casey has to explain about crying, and that people can feel sad and stuff. And then at the end, Eve finally cries as well. And I swear there's some kind of scene in the Barbie movie, Barbie 2023 or whatever, about like Barbie learning what crying is. Sorry, I'm going to talk about like every parallel between those movies. There's a scene, I liked this one where Casey and Eve, they're panicking in the kitchen because Eve almost burned the house down trying to make something, and Eve doesn't know the fire extinguishers, and they're fighting over it, and there's stuff getting sprayed everywhere, and Eve is screaming Casey like at the fire of like, get it, Casey, get it, and as if there was like a mouse in the kitchen. That was actually kind of funny. And then Eve gets upset about not being able to cook or type or do anything right because she's supposed to be like a role model. And that's actually the point when I was thinking about the Barbie connections of like stereotypical Barbie needing to be perfect and getting upset over like flat feet. And Eve even says something like dolls are supposed to be perfect. And the whole lesson is like Eve learning she doesn't have to be perfect all the time or good at everything, and becoming more human and stuff. But I do like that as a doll, you know, Eve wants to be perfect, and it's not really about her. It's more of like she takes her like job in a sense of like being a role model to girls like very, very seriously. There's this part I thought was cute. It's like within the same scene where Casey and Eve, like, they end up laughing in the kitchen when they're both covered in like the fire extinguisher stuff. Like, it's probably just acting or whatever, but like Lindsay Lohan's laugh sounded so like childlike and innocent, but also like genuine. Maybe it was kind of cute. And then Eve, what else? She gets upset of like no one wanting to buy her, and her thought process is immediately to think like, oh, what's wrong with me? They have a talk about like, I'm glad that Eve actually calls out Casey for like pushing people away and stuff. And that's when Casey realizes like, okay, I need to like reconnect with my friends. And she does at the end of the movie. Like, she goes off to hang out with her friends or whatever. But yeah, this movie's very like wholesome and sweet and that kind of stuff. And then Eve does decide she needs to like, it's of course like bad timing where Casey says something about like not wanting to send Eve back and viewing her as part of the family, and it's right after Eve sees on the TV that her doll might actually get canceled and how she misses home. Like, she sees the doll commercial from the beginning and is like, oh, home, and like puts her hand on the screen because she misses Sunnyvale. And then off screen, Eve ends up getting a haircut. I was like wondering about that, but I think it's part of her like looking more human and like less like a doll, where I did miss her long hair. She had so many fun hairstyles in the movie, but Eve actually dresses more like casual throughout the movie, where by the end, besides her new haircut, she wears like jeans and a tank top rather than like these super flashy like dresses from the start, even though those were fun. But yeah, again, reminds me of the Barbie movie where Barbie wears like less and less pink throughout the movie and is in like kind of more casual clothes by the end. I liked that Casey, she has this like big football game at the end of the movie, and I think her team ends up losing, and the parents, you see like not just Casey with her dad, but also the parents of her teammates, you know, they tell the kids like, oh, it's okay that you lost, you still did great, rather than like getting mad at them over losing. And then we get to see Eve go to the toy store. It's like a cool toy store and kind of a nice scene. I think what ruins it for me is the camera angles are like really tilted and weird, and it's just during this one part of the movie, and I didn't understand that choice because it just kind of looks weird and kind of takes you out of the moment. And it's supposed to be like a kind of magical scene in the sense of Eve going to the toy store where Sunnyvale is, where they like have the commercials, and she even sees Sunnyvale, quote unquote, as like the doll house and everything. Or it's not actually like a doll house, but like all the things used in the commercial and stuff. It's like a set that's at the back of the back of the store. I really wish that Eve did stay human, like they went the Barbie route of that. Mostly just because I love Eve as a character, and she seemed like she's basically human at that point. But I do think it was interesting of like she becomes a doll again. She chooses to, because her doll. It's mostly because like if she doesn't become a doll again, her doll line is like going to get ruined, and it does get fixed by the end, because she describes to Casey of like, I'm gonna take the things you I learned from like being with you, and those are gonna be in like every doll now. And that turns out to be kind of literal, where we see New Dolls at the end, the line is saved and popular, where the doll, instead of having like the sparkle and shine line, says something of like or talking about shopping or whatever, says something of like, I love your megawatt smile or whatever, which is like a Casey line. But also like Casey even says to her like, the sparkle and the shine thing is weird, get rid of that. It sounded like very like disco or something, where the doll instead talks about like the girl's appearance and like being a good thing, rather than talking about like shopping or whatever, like trying to modernize it in a sense. I did think that was kind of cool. But I also feel bad for Casey, because like she already lost her mom and, you know, is not handling that well until the end of the movie, and now Eve is like leaving her too, after like Casey already became emotionally attached. Like Casey's like crying at the end, and that was hard to see. Oh, man, like Lindsay Lohan is a good actress overall. I haven't really seen much of her adult stuff, but I just mostly remember her as a child actress. Like she does really well in this movie and stuff. I think she's like 13 here or something. I was trying to think, I'm like, what other movies did I see her in? Because I know she was in like as a kid. I mean, I know in a teen, like everyone knows her for like Mean Girls. I was trying to remember as a kid, because like 2000s Disney Channel, I would have been watching that. And I remembered what it was. I think the first movie I ever saw her in was the Parent Trap remake, which I did think that she had a twin in real life, but it was just her, and that like blew my mind finding that out when I was like older. And it's nice that I think Casey gets to keep the exact same doll. Like Eve literally turns back into doll form, and then Casey picks her up and takes her home, and we don't see that specific Eve doll again. But she does say something about like, let's put her up somewhere special, so I'm assuming she keeps it. So I thought that was kind of nice. Like, yeah, it's not Eve the human who's able to talk and hang out with Casey and do stuff, but it is nice. I mean, it is her doll. It wouldn't make sense if the doll, you know, vanished, or she had to like leave it in the store or something, because she was given the doll and has the certificate and everything. So, you know, but that's nice. She has like a little reminder of Eve in a sense. What else? I'd be upset if I was the dad too, actually. Like, imagine meeting someone that like looks exactly like Tyra Banks and has like the personality of Eve, of being like very peppy and fun and stuff, and like falling in love where they were almost gonna like kiss and everything, and then in like the middle of the movie, and then having that person have to leave you and forever and stuff. That's gotta be hard. But it was kind of interesting, because I'm so used to like the fish out of water movies, where I mean, I guess maybe it is a 50-50. I'm trying to remember about like with Splash, where I mean, those movies usually either end where it's like the non-human character has to go back to being non-human and like go home or something, or it's like they get to stay as a human. Usually if it's like a romance movie or something. I think with Shape of Water, and I swear with Splash as well, where it's like the non-human has to go home, but the main character like goes to like live with them or something. Yeah, I need to rewatch Splash. I don't remember how it ends. And then it's kind of funny, because like we get the sad little scene of like Eve having to go back to being a doll, and then we find out that the doll line is saved, and Casey goes to hang out with her friends, and everything's all happy and good. And then there's one more scene where we get like a dance party ending for some reason, where all the characters are dancing in the store, and Tyra Banks is singing the Be a Star song again. But it's just kind of funny because they have the dad dancing too, and like the lawyer coworker characters, but the dance is like a bit silly, so it was just funny. It almost reminded me of, I mean, they are like kind of, actually I don't remember if they're all even like smiling and laughing or whatever. It made me think of like the Peacemaker intro, which that reminded me I need to watch the second season. I haven't yet, but that's also still just so funny because I'm so used to dance party endings being in like kids movies and stuff, but then that one being like a superhero show, and then that's the intro for every episode, and they don't like smile or laugh or anything. They're just completely serious doing all these like dance moves and stuff. But yeah, dance party ending with this I was just not expecting. It's like a very short thing. It just felt very random. I feel like it almost wasn't needed because the movie ends nicely. It doesn't even really feel abrupt or anything of like, we find out the line is saved, Casey, the dolls are saved, Casey goes literally to just like go with her friends, the dad makes a comment about it or whatever, to Drew, and then that's it, you know. And the movie could have ended there. But yeah, I wish I'd watched this movie sooner. Like, I kind of vaguely remembered about it from when I was little, but I hadn't actually seen it at all, which was kind of nice because I'm not going to really watch a lot of the Disney Channel movies anyway. A lot of the ones I am watching, the Disney Channel originals or whatever, like ones I've already seen. So it's nice to have one I just had never seen before. But this movie was super fun. I loved Eve's character. It's just like very like wholesome and everything. It's fun watching her like be excited about everything and play this like fashion doll character and stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, there is a sequel. I don't think it's made by Disney. It's also made in 2018, so it's literally like an 18-year gap between movies. Thankfully they still have Tyra Banks as Eve, but they don't have Lindsay Lohan. I heard that she was supposed to be in the movie and then had something else to do. I've heard the movie isn't supposed to be good. I don't know if this is going to be one of those things like Candyman for me, where it's like I love a character so much I watch the sequel, but the sequel's like worse, but I only watch it to see more of the character that I like. So I don't know if I'll watch it. I think I might like wait a couple days or something, because I'll probably end up missing this character and like thinking about the movie and then wanting more and then dragging myself to the sequel. But maybe if I just view it as like a thing for fun, it could be kind of nice. I'm assuming it's going to be even more silly, like it takes place at Christmas and stuff. I heard that the main character I read isn't a child, and it's like a person who works in a toy store who's like a woman who's having a midlife crisis. I think that could be kind of interesting, of like Eve, you know, still having like the same personality in a sense of like cheering people up and like doing her job of that, but like for an adult instead of for a child, because I think adults need that too, of like manic pixie dream girl sort of vibe in our lives. I wonder if it'll be more towards like, oh, the people, like the kids that would have grown up with this movie, you know, would be adults by then, and being kind of aimed more towards that. But I hope it still keeps its fun and everything. Maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't, I don't know. But I loved this was great. It was especially nice because like I'd watched Smart House yesterday, like I said, and it actually was just okay. Not like I adored that movie as a child or anything. I just remember it, and I remember watching it and liking it. I still like it. It's not a bad movie or anything, but it didn't live up to what I thought in my mind of, I don't know, I thought I was going to like it more. Then again, I didn't even remember that much of it anyway. I like remembered bits and pieces of it. But on the contrary, I'd never seen this one before, and I loved it. I could watch this again. Yeah, this is making me want to watch. I mean, I mentioned Splash. I'm gonna have to make myself like a list or something. Hold on, let me actually write this down, because I'll mention like I need to watch this and this and this in the videos, and I'd like never freaking remember. But yeah, this makes me want to watch Splash. This makes me want to watch the Barbie movie again, but I actually have changed my mind on that movie. I don't really like it anymore. Except for Ryan Gosling as Ken. That's like the best part of the movie to me. Yeah, this makes me want to watch Splash again. It does remind me of Barbie. It could be interesting to do that as like a double feature, actually, of watching Barbie 2023 and watching this. But it makes me want to watch some of the like early 2000s chick flick movies like Ella Enchanted. I've been wanting to watch that again anyway. Or I mentioned like Aquamarine. I would love to do a review of Aquamarine actually, or just an excuse to watch it again. It's not actually like amazing or anything. It's just I have like a lot of nostalgia for it. But yeah, that's Life Size. Really cool. We'll see if I watch the next one. I'm actually gonna. I've been wanting to watch Twitches the last 2 days, and it's already like 11 p.m. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna watch it anyway. I'm gonna watch Twitches. I don't know when you're getting a review of that. I'm like pre-recording Halloween movies like years in advance. I'm not even kidding. It's 2025, and I'm already scheduling on YouTube reviews for just October for 2027. So that's how many Halloween movies I'm watching right now. All right. Bye bye.